was. I want to talk to you guys about something more positive, something I think is good. We've been talking a lot about PlayStation in a relatively negative way, right? We've been talking about the mistakes that they've been making, what's going on with their canceled games and live service and the layoffs and the studio closures. There's been a lot of negativity, unfortunately, and it sucks. And we've been, again, talking all about that. But yesterday we reacted to a video that I know a lot of you guys watched with me. And at the end of that video, there was something that was reiterated. It wasn't like a bomb drop moment because it was something that we did hear about previously, but it was reiterated and re-emphasized. And I think it's something that's pretty important to pay attention to. And that is the fact that Sony has massive investment in specifically new intellectual property. And I think that this is going to be hugely important very soon. It could be something that we end up seeing as soon as May if they do a showcase or something like that. But regardless, going into the remainder of the PS5 generation, new IP is going to play such a huge role in, I would say, rejuvenating the excitement around not just PlayStation, but the PS5 as well. And yes, Irfan, thank you for reporting on that, man. And I actually have your Reddit post up here because you really, I mean, you did a good job with the transcript. You have here Jim Ryan on the launch of PlayStation, Sean Layden on the price of PlayStation, Sean Layden on the PlayStation 3, Jim Ryan on the PS3, Herman Hulst on the PS3. You got the whole thing here. But at the very bottom here, it says Sean Layden, it says, sorry. It was Herman Hulst. Herman Hulst says CNBC also re-reports the news related to one of Sony's earnings that 50% of Sony's investment will be going into new IP by 2025, comparing to just 20% back in 2019. This is such a huge deal that I just don't think people quite fully understand or grasp like how significant that is and how that they're saying by 2025. So by next year, 50% of all of PlayStation's investment will be in new IP, which means that from 2025 and onward, half of the games that we see from Sony are going to be new IP. I just don't think that has registered yet in a lot of people's brains. You know, it's understandable because this is something that Sony talked about a little while ago. And the problem as well is that there was a 60% investment in live service, right? And that's what people focused on, not understanding that the investment for single player is over double, you know, what it was in 2019. Everybody was focused, but what about that live service investment? And I agree, like that was definitely something to be concerned about, but you know, it's a big deal. Like I think Sony has a lot kind of, you know, going on behind the curtain that people might be quite surprised and delighted, hopefully. No doubt about it. We have Idrisil coming in with a super chat saying, do you think the canceled Spider-Man game will end up releasing after the leak? Off topic. Sorry. No, it's okay. That's actually, that's more on topic to what the stream's supposed to be about. Well, I think whatever that version of this game was, like the 5-player co-op, you know, the Great Web, I think that was canceled. But what I do think is that some aspects of that concept will live on and might find its way into Spider-Man 3. Maybe Spider-Man 3 could be co-op or have a co-op option. Or maybe in the future we'll get some kind of DLC that'll just be a little kind of like, here you go, you know, little side thing where you can play it cooperatively. I think to a certain extent, the concept itself will live on, but the live service, game as a service aspect, I think that's the aspect that died and that was canceled. And I think the fact that Insomniac suffered layoffs, I think it's proof of that. You know, a lot of people were asking, you know, how could a team like Insomniac suffer layoffs? Like, this is Sony's bread and butter, man. They've been carrying the PS5. They've been doing the heavy lifting. If they're not safe, nobody's safe. And I agree with that. And it is like questionable, like, man, Insomniac suffering layoffs? But I think it's, when you see this, it's because they had people that they hired that they know their expertise, so to speak, or their, you know, their knowledge in live service is no longer needed. You know what I mean? So it's like, we really don't know what to do with you here because we're making single player games and we hired you specifically to make a multiplayer game. And if those, you know, if those employees were, you know, that is their area of expertise, I mean, I'm sure they'd rather go somewhere where they can, you know, employ that expertise. Yeah, a lot of them were probably QA testers as well. That seems to be exactly what happened with Naughty Dog, where like Naughty Dog, it started with, we saw Naughty Dog lay off like all their QA testers, you know, and a lot of people were like, whoa, what's going on? And then not too long after that, we found out that, oh, it's because there's nothing to QA. You know, there's no QA testing needed. The game was canceled. The multiplayer game was canceled. So they're no longer needed. Yeah, that's true as well, Fred. Thank you for pointing it out. You said, while layoffs do suck to hear about, we have heard of new studios rising up as well. Yeah, I saw that. I don't have the reports in front of me, but I saw that there was at least, I think it was 2 new studios founded by like veteran game developers. And you do have to wonder if Sony's going to try to like strike a deal with any of these guys. I think one team is actually, it comprises of former Naughty Dog developers as well as, I think EA developers? I forget what other developers, but I know that Naughty Dog was on that list. And there was another studio. Again, I don't have it up in front of me, but Star Wars veterans. Okay. Yeah. I I think that's something that not enough people are like kind of shining a light on as well. It's like everybody, and understandably gets outraged. It's like the layoffs. How could this happen? Developers are losing their jobs. And then, when you see this news, I'll be honest, it feels like it kind of just like, I guess that's just maybe the way it is, right? Like bad news it's easier to see bad news get more attention than good news. And it's true that we are seeing these new AAA studios being formed, these independent studios. Yeah, that's the one. Previous God of War director also opened up a studio. I think he was the director of God of War 3. And I think he comes from Respawn. I think he worked at Respawn after that. Yeah, there are no games yet. It's going to be a while. But it's good to see that still going on as well. But yeah, new IP from PlayStation, 50%. So let's think about this, right? How many new IP, how many new intellectual properties have been revealed by Sony this generation so far? Well, Returnal, to me, is, as of right now, the only standout new IP that we got so far during the PS5 generation. And that came out in 2021. I believe that game, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Returnal was revealed at the PS5, like the first event, and then it came out the following year. Other than that, I don't think Sony has released any new IP from any of their internal studios. I'm trying to think if there's something I'm forgetting. I mean, no, I don't think I'm forgetting. I think Returnal might be it. I'm waiting to see if somebody's going to correct me or not. I'm trying to like go through like nearly 4 years in my head, 4 years of game releases. Destruction All Stars. Well, yeah, technically that is a new IP, not from an internal Sony studio though. But yeah, I think Well, to be fair, I guess to be completely fair, when Returnal released at the time, Housemarque wasn't a first party studio either. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. PS Plus games were announced. Astrobot. Astrobot's great, but it actually wasn't a new IP. There was an Astro game for PSVR 1. Oh, here we go. The PlayStation Plus game catalog for March has been revealed. Let me tell you guys what the lineup is real quick. Sorry if we're all over the place. I'm just kind of letting it flow freely here. So these games will be available March 19th. PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium Catalog, NBA 2K24, Kobe Bryant Edition, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Lego DC Supervillains, Mystic Pillars Remastered, Blood Bowl 3, Super Neptunia RPG, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, PlayStation Premium Classics, Jak and Daxter, The Lost Frontier, Cool Borders, which is a PS1 snowboarding game, God Eater Burst, and Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R, and My Hero Academia. So there you go. Sony just dropped that 5 minutes ago. Those are the PlayStation Plus games for Extra and Premium. Chase, you're saying it's trash? I would say it's trash, but no, Cool Borders makes it an S tier. Cool Borders, the PS1 snowboarding game. Of course. Gabono, you're saying I see why MBG canceled the service for Premium. I mean, it's just I don't think it's a terrible lineup. I think it's a pretty decent lineup. Resident Evil 3 is probably like one of the standout games for me, but I already did play that. But yeah, man, when we talk about PlayStation and new IP, I think we have to separate this, right? We have to separate it into new IP that was revealed and released this generation, new IP that was just revealed but not released, and then new IP that has yet to be revealed and yet to be released. Well, we went over the first category, and the only game that we can think of is Returnal. Returnal seems to be the only actual new IP from Sony themselves. Everything outside of that has either been a sequel, a remake, or a remaster. Now we move on to the second category, which are new IPs that have been announced but have not been released. We have Chris Brown with a $2 super chat. Thank you, buddy, saying Naughty Dog producing one IP since 2013 is a waste of talent. Yeah, we don't talk about that, Chris. We try not to talk about that. That is very disappointing. Yeah, I mean, if there's a studio that needs to, I mean, they really have to, sooner rather than later, show us a new game. It's definitely Naughty Dog. But yes, the category of it's been revealed, but it hasn't been released yet. Well, this is where things start to get interesting. New IPs that have been revealed. Well, Concord. Concord is a new IP from Firewalk that's been revealed and hasn't released yet. It's supposed to come out this year. Fair Games is a second new IP that has been revealed, another multiplayer live service game from Haven. We don't know when that's going to release. We have Marathon. Marathon is a new IP. Well, no, hold on. No, Marathon's not a new IP. It feels like a new IP, but no, Marathon is actually not a new IP. So we cannot count Marathon as a new IP that was announced. So Fair Games. Oh my God, is that it? Is that really it? I gotta look at it. I feel like there should be more. Let me check. Haven. No, I think that's actually it. Wow. That's crazy, dude. All right, so the only new IP that we have announced, officially announced, or if you're saying, oh, MBG just realized it's even worse. Well, it's weird because it's like, I thought that there was more announced, but no, dude, it's like, this is serving as like a stark reminder of like, yeah, dude, Sony has not announced jack shit for like the past 2 years, bro, from their own studios. And the only new IP that has been announced this generation, Returnal, Destruction All-Stars. I guess I'll just throw that. Should I even throw that in there? It feels so fucking weird to count Destruction All-Stars. But I guess just if we're being technical about it, Returnal. No, I'm not counting Destruction All-Stars because that was made by Lucid, and Sony doesn't own Lucid. Sony does not own Lucid. I'm not counting that. I'm trying to just focus on Sony's internal studios. New IP, Returnal, announced, released. Fair Games, announced, not released. Concord, announced, not released. And that's it from Sony Studios. That's it. Rise of the Ronin and Stellar Blade. Yeah, I see when Sony says 50%, I assume that those games are being counted. I do assume that they are looking at that as like, they're like Rise of the Ronin, XDev is working on that. So of course they're going to count that. We can count those if we want, Rise of the Ronin, Stellar Blade. But I still feel a little bit, it's like a little bit shaky for me there because I'm trying to just keep it to like studios that Sony owns. Because I feel like if we start listing second and third party, it gets really messy. Like, are we going to count Forspoken? I guess it's just because, people always wonder, like, why do you just hyperfixate on PlayStation Studios? Why don't I talk about it and, like, acknowledging the second and third party, and I separate them? I usually separate them because I do hold Sony's internal studios to a different standard. Like, for example, maybe this sounds a little bit unfair, but I think it just speaks to my expectation from Sony themselves. Like, if Rise of the Ronin came from one of Sony's internal studios, I would be feeling way more concerned about it because, I don't know, like I look at Rise of the Ronin, and this is no offense to Team Ninja, but I look at Rise of the Ronin and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to enjoy Rise of the Ronin more than Ghost of Tsushima. There's just no way. Like, there's no way Rise of the Ronin is going to touch Ghost of Tsushima. Could it match it in some areas and be just as fun in some areas? Yeah. But overall, no. And so it's like if Sucker Punch came out and was like, here's our follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima, it's called Rise of the Ronin, I'd be like, yo, this is a major step back. So I guess that's what I mean when I'm not as critical. Maybe it's a little bit unfair. Like, should I be this critical towards Sony's internal studios? Well, I can't help it. It's like they're the ones who set the standard. So it's hard for me not to expect that or kind of judge what they do next against that standard. And so that's why I just prefer to kind of stick to the internal, like for example, like Concord and Fair Games. I am so nervous about these games because, dude, these are not second or third party relationships. Do I count Fizzant? Yeah, see, that's where it gets tough. That's where it gets really tough because it's like Sony doesn't own Kojima Productions, but fuck, man, like that feels like Sony is so heavily involved. It's like, but it's Kojima. So it's like, all right, let me put it to you this way. I hold Kojima Productions to the highest standard. You know what I mean? Like I do. I hold them to the highest standard because it's Kojima. And when I see Kojima Productions collaborating with PlayStation Studios, I won't lie. My expectation is this has to be fucking incredible, right? Like that is my expectation. And if anything, it just goes to show like, how I kind of, I guess, categorize different development teams and different studios in my mind, where Kojima, if we were to like, do like a tier list, like, yeah, Kojima Productions is S tier for me. Sucker Punch is S tier for me. Team Ninja, I don't know if Team Ninja is S tier for me. It's to be honest, it's hard for me to even judge because I haven't really had much experience with their previous games. But based off of Rise of the Ronin, like, I don't think I would play Rise of the Ronin and come to the conclusion that, damn, Team Ninja just made a game that is as good as what I expect to get from something like Kojima Productions or Sucker Punch. I just don't think so. But that's just the way it is. I think that all these different teams, you're saying, how dare you? I know. I'm not trying to. You're saying they are? Maybe they are. Yeah, I don't know. I'll find out. I guess I'm just kind of keeping my expectations in check. But like, that's why I was saying, when I look at Concord and when I look at Fair Games, like, they are not, again, maybe Team Ninja is S. I just want to clarify because I don't want to like piss anybody off who's a big Team Ninja fan. I'm not saying they aren't S tier. It's a question mark for me. I don't have enough experience with their games, and I can only make an assumption based off of what I've seen of Rise of the Ronin. So I'll find out. Who knows? Maybe I'll play Rise of the Ronin. I'll be like, yo, this is S+ tier for me. We'll see. But I feel like when I look at Concord from Firewalk and Fair Games from Haven, I don't feel the same way. And I'm sorry, Cuddy can't hang. You dropped the super chat, man. My bad. Sorry to keep you waiting. You're saying, what will happen first? A new first-party PlayStation IP announced or Gears of War coming to PlayStation? Serious/not serious? I mean, that's a fair question. That's a fair question. Shit. Well, I mean, I can tell you Concord is coming first. So if we count Concord, that's going to happen first. If we're not counting, it's like Gears of War is announced to be coming to PlayStation next week. If we're not counting Concord, I don't know, man. I don't know. If the rumor's true that Microsoft is no pun intended, gearing up to get much more serious with bringing their games over to PlayStation in 2025. I mean, we know Death Stranding 2 is going to be a big title for PlayStation next year, but what else would they have? We know Wolverine isn't going to be ready. I don't know. I'm not expecting to get Naughty Dog's new game next year. I don't know. Capone is saying, y'all keep bringing that up. You guys do want Xbox games. Oh, there are definitely a lot of PlayStation fans that want Gears. Absolutely. I'm not one of them, personally. But yeah, I would say I think it would be smart of Microsoft to bring Gears of War because I think out of all of Microsoft's franchises, that seems to be the one that I've seen the most amount of people who, like, I guess, play on PlayStation saying, oh, I'd love to play that on PS5. So Microsoft could probably make some good money there. There you go. Irfan. I keep forgetting about that. Venom's coming in 2025 as well. So next year we could see Venom, which isn't a new IP. Venom, Death Stranding 2. So I don't know. Cuddy can't hang. It's your guess is as good as mine, man. Truthfully, your guess is as good as mine there. And we have Josh McGill, member for 14 months. Thank you for the support, buddy, saying, MBG, do you think PlayStation first-party studios announces any new IPs this year? Yes. Yes. And I'm sorry if it seems like I'm getting my expectations too high by having this level of confidence, but to me, that answer is absolutely yes. I'm not saying it'll be like multiple, but at least one new single-player IP will get announced. It has to. Yes. That's all I will say is yes. Josh, to answer. I'm sorry if it's an underwhelming answer, but yes. Now, if you ask me which one, we'll get to that in a moment. We have Jake Skew 28. Jake Skew 28 is keeping the membership train flowing today. Flowing. Does the train flow? He's keeping it rolling. He drops another membership gift for you guys. Let's get some W's in the chat for Jake Skew. He brings us up to 13 members. So we are getting ever closer to hitting our goal of 25. Thank you for that, Jake. You're heading off to work now. I hope you have a good day. Thanks for stopping by and thanks for showing me and the community some love, man. Always appreciate it. Keep an eye on the games from China Hero Project. A lot of those development studios have gone quiet since February, and they were very chatty all last year. Yeah, I keep forgetting about that. It's so easy to forget that Sony has all these other projects coming from China, and they just announced the projects coming from their India Hero project. It's smart. I think what Sony's doing is smart. Idrisil with a super chat saying, Sony and XPC SX2 devs are teaming up. Do you think we will see less remakes in the future? No. No, I think that's true. Like, we kind of reported on that, how these the developers who worked on PC SX2 are seemingly teaming up with Sony. I think that's going to be for more PS2 games for PlayStation Plus Premium, but I don't think that means we're going to see less remakes. I think that, to be honest, we're going to see more and more remakes where it makes sense. I don't think Sony's going to slow down on that anytime soon. It's official. Did it become official? I thought it was just like a rumor from yesterday. But yeah, remakes. Now, dude, that train's going to keep rolling for sure. Absolutely. We have Anonymous Boss saying Microsoft is probably having a meeting right now thinking what the fans will think if Gears and Halo goes to PS5. Obviously, it would sell well, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Like, if we're seeing a game like Sea of Thieves seemingly getting ready to sell very well, I think Gears and Halo would sell incredibly well on PlayStation. Absolutely. But I do think it is a big move for Microsoft because, I mean, if we look at Sea of Thieves, if we look at Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush and Grounded, you know, these are not the defining games. I mean, maybe you could say Sea of Thieves kind of is, but it does. It's not on the same level as like Gears of War and Halo. Gears of War and Halo are games that have truly defined the Xbox brand, and I think there is a risk, and I'm sure Microsoft is well aware of this risk, that if they pull that trigger and they say you can get Gears on PlayStation, you can get Halo on PlayStation, they're going to lose a lot of people who. That's why they bought Xboxes. Like, sure, you could get these games on PC, but to a lot of people who play on Xbox, like Xbox is Halo, Xbox is Gears, and so yeah, I think that they do run a pretty significant risk of essentially funneling what could be a relatively large amount of Xbox gamers, funneling them over to PlayStation, where it's like, well, shit, man, if I can get my Gears fix and my Halo fix on PlayStation, and I can also get my God of Wars and my Last of Us and Horizons, yeah, I'll just go play on that console. So I think Microsoft still has to be a little bit careful how they do it. But I will tell you this. I don't think that we're going to see a situation where it's like the next Halo is going to drop day one on PlayStation 5. I don't think so. That would truly be like, wow, okay, holy shit. I think it's going to be, here's the Master Chief Collection. Then eventually after that, sometime down the line, here's Halo Infinite. And then you assume by that time, Microsoft announced the next mainline Halo, and they're going to say, and if you want to play the next mainline Halo, it'll be on Xbox and PC. And it seems clear like even that will eventually make its way to PlayStation, but not at launch. That's my assumption. From Scratch Gamer, you're saying Wolverine. Neutral Zone, you're saying that will never happen. I wouldn't say never. You think they'll keep the campaign on PlayStation? Maybe just bring the multiplayer over? I guess they could do it that way. All right, well, check this out. Let's get back to Concord and Fair Games. What I was trying to say a little bit earlier is that I don't view Firewalk Studios or Haven Studios as top-tier development teams. I don't, because I said the opposite. I don't view them the same because it's like, dude, they haven't released anything. So I'm very, very nervous about these games where it's like, you are part of a family of studios that have released some of the highest quality games that we've ever seen. The quality bar is extremely high. Are these brand new studios that have never produced a game going to be able to compete? So I will say that even though Concord and Fair Games are pretty much the only new IP we have announced, I don't have much faith in them. They don't get me very excited because I just don't know what they're going to be like. So let's move on to the third and final category here. New IP that is in development that has not been announced and has not released. Well, this is where things get very exciting. And I know that you guys are tired of me talking about it, but I think it's an important part of the conversation at a time like this, because I'm just like, I'm not trying to necessarily hype people up, but I'm just speaking for me, where this definitely does get me excited, where when we look at the list of new IP, potentially, it's looking pretty good. Bend Studio, Bluepoint Games, potentially. Bluepoint Games is kind of a 50-50 situation, but they could very well be working on a new IP. So Bend Studio, Bluepoint Games. Firesprite is a little different too, because we were under the impression that they're working on a new IP, but supposedly, I think it was Jason Schreier who said that Firesprite's actually working on a horror game that's in an established PlayStation franchise. So maybe we won't count Firewalk. Guerrilla isn't, I don't think, working on a new IP. Housemarque is working on a new IP. I would say London Studio is working on a new IP, but they got shut down. Media Molecule could very well be working on a new IP. Naughty Dog is working on a new IP. Santa Monica Studio is working on a new IP. So Sucker Punch is clearly working on the next Ghost of Tsushima, so I wouldn't say they're working on a new IP. So what's interesting about this list of studios that they're working on new IP is these are big studios. Like, these are the studios that, for example, we take Sony Santa Monica. Like, whenever they're ready to actually show this new game, it's likely going to steal the show. Like, it's going to suck up most of, if not all of, the oxygen in the room, because it's Sony Santa Monica and it's their first time making a new IP since God of War. It's going to be fucking huge, right? And they're one of the most talented studios in the world, so it's going to be a big deal. But you also look at, Naughty Dog. Same can be said for Naughty Dog, man. Especially because, as it was pointed out earlier, Naughty Dog hasn't released a new IP since 2013. And I don't know if you guys remember, I remember when The Last of Us was originally, for the first time ever revealed, people were like, holy shit, this looks awesome. So Naughty Dog revealing a new IP would be a huge deal for sure. But then we have Sony Bend. Sony Ben, I'm telling you, man, telling you. Days Gone, don't pay attention to the reviews. People love Days Gone. Days Gone is a game that a lot of PlayStation fans fondly remember playing and loving and enjoying, and a lot of fans want a sequel. Unfortunately, we're not getting a sequel, but I would say Sony Bend is up there as one of the bigger studios now for Sony, and they're going to make a splash, I think, with their new IP. Bluepoint is interesting because if they do make a new IP, again, that kind of remains to be seen. If Bluepoint does make a new IP, that could go either way. So we'll see about Bluepoint. But then you have Housemarque. Housemarque's also working on a new IP. And it's Housemarque, dude. Like, their last game was a new IP in Returnal, and people loved it. I loved it. So I think the future is looking very, very, very bright, frankly, for PlayStation Studios because, yeah, we're going to continue to get sequels. Yeah, we're going to continue to get remakes and remasters. And yeah, we're going to continue to get partner games from second-party studios and third-party exclusives. But yes, we're also going to continue to get new AAA IP from some of Sony's most talented and most prolific studios. And, the waiting is the hardest part. You got to let them cook. But that's why I said earlier, like, yes, are we going to see new IP revealed this year? Yes, we have to. At least from one of these studios. The question is, which one is most likely? See, now that's the question. Out of all these studios, which one is most likely to show up this year with a reveal? I think it's Naughty Dog. That's my personal take. I think if there's only one studio we get a new IP reveal from this year, I think it's Naughty Dog. I think they owe us that. Nate Dogg with a $2 super chat. Thank you, buddy. You're saying, remember, CD Projekt Red was interested in the Days Gone IP. I don't remember this. Is this true? Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Jeff Ross, Days Gone game director, said that there was an internal rumor that CD Projekt Red was interested in purchasing the Days Gone IP from Sony. Wow. That's insane. Sounds fake. I mean, yeah, it does sound a little unbelievable, but that's pretty funny to think. CD Projekt Red. Could you imagine a Days Gone developed by CD Projekt Red? Jeff Ross also said that Bend is using a Decima engine. Ooh. I mean, Days Gone was a pretty good game. It wasn't like the best looking game, but it had pretty good graphics, I would say. But the Decima engine, I'm telling you, man, I keep thinking about Death Stranding 2, and that game looks unreal. It does. Like, go back and watch the trailer where it shows the landscape shots, like the zoomed out shots. Oh my God. I've never seen anything like it. I feel like not enough people are like kind of talking about like, dude, holy shit. Like now we're really starting to see like this is what the PS5 can do in its latter years, When talented development teams with very good engines that are optimized for the PS5, this is what it can do. Some of the shots in actually a lot of the shots in the Death Stranding 2 trailer look like straight up CGI to me. I'm like that. Like I'm literally wondering, is that on a PS5 Pro? Because that looks absurdly good. You think Ratchet and Horizon Forbidden West is peak for PS5? I think for now, we are going to absolutely see games that I don't want to say will lap Horizon Forbidden West or Ratchet and Clank because that might be a bit much, but we definitely will see games that are doing more, that are I think more cutting edge, more bleeding edge, so to speak, than Ratchet and Horizon Forbidden West. You don't think we will? No, I'm telling you, man. Trust me. Like wait until you guys see the next Naughty Dog game that was made from the ground up for the PS5. People are not going to be ready for what they see. They're not. I'm not saying it'll be a game for everybody. We'll see. But what I can tell you is people are not going to believe what they're seeing visually when we see the next Naughty Dog game. Everyone will say it's fake. You would think by this point, hopefully not, right? You would think by this point, like people kind of understand, like, yeah, they're good at what they do. Illegal Monkey, you're saying MBG seeing floods and earthquakes happening simultaneously. Exactly, dude. But yeah, man. The waiting is the hardest part. It's driving me nuts at this point. I'm so desperate to learn more about these projects that PlayStation has been working on for years now, what they've been cooking. I'm ready to move past this, you know, I'm ready to move past the first half of the PS5 and really see like what we can get. It's been 84 years, damn it. It feels like it's been a long time, dude. I'll be honest. If there's one area where Sony truly has let me down and disappointed me, and maybe it'll be fine or not. It'll be fine. Maybe it's not their fault necessarily, but the one area where Sony's really let me down and disappointed me is the lack of communication with their internal teams. And the reason why I say it's probably, I don't want to blame Sony necessarily because I mean it does fall on them, but I guess I just mean like they're probably doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Like where their teams are like, look, we really don't want to show our games until we're absolutely ready. And Sony knows that's like, well, how long is that going to take? Probably like 4 years, maybe something like that. And like, yeah, probably. So they know that it means they're not going to be able to create that wow factor for some time. And I don't think they're. I guess I'm saying we could see Sony do a different way. I mean, if you look back to the PS4 generation, I feel like Sony did kind of do it differently, and some people kind of complained about it, where it was like, we need to stop. Like Sony needs to stop revealing games that are like 4 or 5 years away. And I get that, but yeah, I mean, hopefully the good thing about this is having to wait so long for these announcements is that by the time we get them, we won't find out it's like 5 years away. Wolverine was like the last game I think that Sony revealed that I can recall. Except, well, then again, Sony just revealed Fizzant, so it's like, well, yeah, that's Fizzant is likely a PlayStation 6 game. So it seems like Sony's treating their own internal studios a little bit differently, where they're like, if you're making a new IP, if you're making a new game, just let us know when you're ready. And we have Figuratively Literal coming in, re-upping his membership, coming back to greatness awaits. Figuratively Literal, thank you so much for that, man. You just brought us up to 14 members on the day. So we're just 11 away now, guys. We're 11 away now from hitting our goal. Remember, we hit our goal of 25. Later on, I will bring Boss in, and he will feast on some snacks for your viewing pleasure. I'm sure he's out there being like, did they do it yet? But Figuratively Literal, thank you for that, man.
Thank you.
Just realized I'm using sound bites today. But yeah, when I think about the PS4 generation, when I think about the PS3 generation, I talked to you guys about this as well. It's worth keeping in mind that when we think of the experiences, like the most meaningful, the most memorable, the hardest hitting, the generational defining experiences that we got on the PS3 and on the PS4, it's worth noting that almost all of those experiences, or at least 70 to 80% of them, came during the second half. Because that's how this works, man. The beginning of the generation, everything's getting spooled up. Everything's getting greenlit. And it's not until basically we enter that second half that's like, all right, now we're ready to start. We're lining up all the shots. Now we're ready to start firing them off. This is what I'm hoping that this is the year that kind of kicks off. Obviously, we're not going to be getting any like new IP, new AAA bangers dropping this year from Sony. But I think the way that they could kick it off is, like I've continued to say, is have a good show some of these games, get people excited, let them know that, hey, for the, if you thought the best was, yet to come, you thought right. That's exactly what's happening.